Carpoolers, welcome to another episode of Carpool. It's a weekly podcast, comes out every Friday, and each week I give someone interesting a lift in my car, and we just have a conversation, and that's really all it is. Very, very simple. This week's passenger I'm really thrilled to meet. Well, obviously I've heard of his dad, but well, the great thing was I went to see this movie with my son. It was a really brilliant sci-fi movie. It's called Moon, and then all those things kind of clicked together. Suddenly I found out who the director was, and he was on Twitter, and we twittered each other, and I just loved it, and he agreed to do Carpool, which is just such a thrill. So it's all through Twitter. So please welcome into the passenger seat this week Mr. Duncan Jones. That is perfect.
Hello, mate.
That made it very easy. I was going, I'll never see him. It's pandemonium. It's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you. Well, that is so...
anything to advertise. But I've been having some pretty funny looks from people on buses and a couple of rollers which have been passing. It's a bit of a nice neighbourhood.
Well, maybe they might be expecting you to bend over and reveal your...
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of white vans going past as well, so I've been getting all sorts of reactions.
Oh, that's so good, and I'm really sorry we were a bit delayed.
Oh, no problem at all.
Bad, are we?
No, it's absolutely fine.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, well, I mean, it is obviously a big thrill, and it is proper. It's a proper Twitter meeting, which I'm very pleased. You know,
I've got something for you.
Oh, look at those!
So these are some patches from the film.
They are so. Because that was the thing. I went to see. Oh, I better not drive without holding the steering wheel and over a red light. I'm so excited about those. Oh!
Thought you might like.
Oh, that is. You're the first of my ever carpool passengers who's given me a present. That is amazing. I've never had a present before.
Well, we have some working people in common with Bill Pearson. I think. Have you who worked on the Red Dwarf models? He also worked on our model.
Did he?
He's like this guy who's been around for ages. He worked on on Outland and Alien.
Right.
So yeah.
Yes, I know who you mean, because because I love the models so much. It was such a relief.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
absolutely. Likewise.
Oh, it was just wonderful. No, it was great. I know, but that was the wonderful thing was completely, unprovoked by anything. I went to see the movie with my son, 16.
Yeah.
And we both loved it, and that was the real key.
That's so good.
Because he was doing so much of the kind of, I'm sure you'll remember it more recently than I do.
Oh, Dad.
Being 16. So
one of these old movies.
Well, no, why do you want to go see that? And he absolutely loved it. And
That's wonderful.
And I knew that there was technically only one actor in it.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell him that, because I thought, oh God, if I say, look, it's just like one bloke on the moon on his own, it's amazing. He's going to go, oh. No car chases.
No explosions.
Was there any No, not really any explosions.
No.
Sort of couple of... Yeah, there was sort of... but there was a lot
drama.
of...
There's some action.
Drama.
There's some action. There's amazing Sam Rockwell.
Just brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wasn't he good?
I was a huge fan of his before we made the film, obviously.
Yeah, he was excellent.
Tried to convince him to do a different film with me, but and he loved the script, but he wanted to play a different role than the one I was hoping he'd play.
Right.
So we sort of tried to convince each other, and that didn't work out. But I just loved him so much. I said, "Listen, I'm going to write something for you."
And that's
Moon is basically a film written for him.
Right, because that's all the things I want to... So you wrote it?
Yes, yeah.
You wrote it?
I wrote it with wrote the treatment, and then the first draft was written by an excellent young screenwriter, a guy called Nathan Parker, who's Alan Parker's son.
Right.
And then after he'd done a couple of drafts, I took over and did the subsequent draft. So it was very collaborative.
Yeah. And I mean, but then it's just so impressive to have you bloody done it. That's the most
in this town.
Yeah, you've done it in this town at this time, and it was on I went to see it in a proper cinema, and it was bloody full when I went to see it. No, that was when it came out.
Yeah.
So I mean, because it sounds like the most. I mean, I'm a little bit obsessed with media distribution.
Yeah. Okay.
Just because it's become a sort of hobby horse of mine.
Yeah.
But I mean, to one, I know so many people who've made a film.
Yes.
And I've never seen it, and it's never been on the cinema, and I haven't even seen a DVD of it.
Yeah, it treads the line. I mean, obviously, because of our budget, we were restricted in an awful lot of things. We couldn't afford the big special effects, but we could afford certain types of special effects. And because of my background in commercials, I kind of had a very good awareness of budget-wise what was going to cost a lot and what wasn't going to cost a lot.
That's right.
And model miniatures was a choice that we made aesthetically, but also it helped us on the budget side of things. So
you reckon it is cheaper to do that than use CGI then?
I think if you basically what you need to do is you need to find this fine line between model miniatures and then post-production on top of it.
Yeah.
And it's really working out where that line is going to be between the two. And that's where you can sometimes find a little way of doing things that will actually make things quite cost effective.
Yes.
That's how we did it.
Because it's certainly a very fond memory of mine watching the guys that did the models on Red Dwarf years ago. When only once I was ever in the studio when they had a Starbug crashing on an icy moon. Yeah. Which was washing powder.
Where were you shooting all of that?
Well, that was shot at I think that was shot at sort of like a BBC studio that I think doesn't exist anymore in Acton. Yeah. Near the rehearsal rooms, but we shot the series in Shepperton. Yeah, okay. But they did the special, those sort of model sequences. But this is like very early on in Red Dwarf. I mean,
I remember watching it when it first came out. Actually, I was at boarding school in Scotland at the time. So yeah, I remember when Red Dwarf first came out. We all would gather around the TV to watch it.
It is. I mean, it's survived a remarkable amount of time. But we don't want to talk about Red Dwarf.
Okay. Let's talk about Scrap Heap Challenges.
Well, that survived.
Which is another one of my favourites.
Yeah, well, that survived a remarkably long time for telly. 10 years I did Scrap Heap. I did ask on Twitter about, because there's one of the questions which I didn't know anything about, so I'm really out of the loop. Is Mute.
Mute is my it's hopefully
your next project?
Film. It's it's slightly bigger budget and it's within the same universe that Moon takes place. But it's a completely separate story. Right. But it's a thriller which takes place in a future Berlin. Which is a city that I sort of spent a little bit of time in when I was growing up. Right. Back when the Cold War was still on. I went there a couple of times, but we were living there. But then later on, I went just before the reunification. Right. And I was there on a rugby tour with my school. Wow. And we went into one of the department stores in East Berlin. We sort of were all shuttled along in this bus with guards. Went into this department store. It was fantastic. It was hysterical. It was one floor of vodka, all the same brand.
This is in East Germany.
In East Berlin. Wow. It was their one department store. And it was vodka on one floor, boots on the next floor, all different sizes but all one style, and then coats on the third floor. It was hysterical. Well, that's just what the world was like.
Yeah, central planning.
Kids, they don't know what they're missing.
They don't know what a miserable time they could have had if they lived in East Germany. It's amazing. So because I mean, obviously, the other question, which I mean, it's entirely up to you when you talk about it, but it's difficult not to. You know, I was thinking about it on the way here. My dad worked for a building society. Yeah. So not a lot of people have said to me, "Oh, it must have been amazing when you were a kid
with your dad."
With your dad,
in a building society.
Yeah, it was really exciting. I used to go to the office on a Saturday morning. You know,
it was I mean, my dad was in the music industry. Yeah. And we travelled a lot because of his work. So we were living in many different countries as I grew up.
Right. So would you go on tour with him then? I mean, it's all those questions. I mean, I'm sure you've had to answer them millions of times.
Not so much. I mean, he tried his best. I mean, my parents divorced when I was very young. And I ended up, in my dad's custody and living with my dad.
Oh, right. You did.
Which was quite unusual back then. Because normally the mother gets custody. But my dad got custody. And he tried the best he could to make sure that I was based in one place as much as possible, which ended up being Switzerland. Right. But then a lot of the time it wasn't possible, or we'd be, for one reason or another, we would have to be moving. So I ended up going to quite a few different schools in different places. Right. Lived in Berlin for a while, and Switzerland, obviously, in New York, and then we were in Japan for a while, in Australia. So we were kind of all over the place. Wow. But it was great for me in some ways, because I think it gave me sort of a more multicultural, appreciation of the world. Yeah.
Wow, that must be it was very hard to try. I grew up outside Witney in Oxfordshire,
which is multicultural.
It's very multicultural in its own way.
It's got people from the north of England and the south of England.
Well, not many from the north, darling.
No, I had no interest in music. Absolutely none.
Wow.
That was my big rebellion. I was a jock. I played loads of sports, loved computer games,
wow.
But music wouldn't have anything to do with it.
That is extraordinary, isn't it? Because when you think of I mean, I saw your dad in 1972. Yeah. In Oxford. Yeah. And it was a game changer for me. I mean, but you would not classify your father as a jock. No. You could classify him as many different things,
but not a jock.
But not a jock. Of all the things that it's so typical, isn't it? That
played loads of sports. I was really into it.
Right. And how did he deal with that? I mean, was he happy about that?
He tried his best. Bless him. He'd come out. I mean, I used to play things like American football and stuff, and he'd come out with his little video camera, not understanding what was going on, and.
That's such a great image.
Clap at the wrong time. Yeah.
But then I suppose was your generation. That's what I can't imagine is whether your generation was as aware of him as mine was. I mean, he was hugely influential on my generation because we, you know,
I'm not sure. I guess.
But I suppose that
maybe a little less so, but yeah.
But I'm just wondering whether, you know, like the kid, your mates.
I'd still get, I'd still get a good ribbing when I was growing up at school and things like that. But, you know, that's just. I think everyone gets that. Everyone gets that for one reason or another.
You do, yeah.
You know,
because my dad had a handlebar moustache. He was he'd been in the RAF, so he had this huge.
Fantastic.
You know, so it was the tash.
Have you ever been tempted?
No, I have bearded up quite a few times, but then everyone just goes. They just go, get rid of that. Don't do that.
Oh, okay.
And I get classified as a tramp. But then you did TV commercials. Then is that what you did? I mean,
I did. I went to university in America.
Right.
I went to graduate school in America. Did 3 years PhD track in philosophy at a place called Vanderbilt in Nashville, Tennessee.
Wow.
Which was really kind of right in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Was it? It's not. I mean, it's not in Nashville. It's sort of near it.
No, the university's in Nashville, but I was living outside of the city, so it was kind of, it was very isolating experience anyway, because I wasn't really happy there, and I didn't know what I was doing there. So the whole idea of 3 years on your own came from that period of being in graduate school, which is what ended up being in Moon.
Being in the Moon, absolutely, absolutely. Wow. And it is weird how those things.
Yeah, they're all.
I mean, it's very clever of you not to write a story about a guy who's in Nashville.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably what I'd have done. It's a really good film about a man who's on his own in Nashville for 3 years and nothing happens. Right. And where's the big? What would? Well, he just sits around looking depressed.
Listening to country music
Listening to
on
country
the radio.
music, even though he's not into music, he likes to play sport, but there's no one to play with.
Hey, it might work.
I think that's why you have produced a movie called Moon and I haven't. I think that sums it up.
Oh dear.
But that's but you did philosophy. Wow,
I did, yeah.
Really, wow.
Yeah, it was all mind-body stuff, and all to do with. Actually, I can roughly tell you the title of the thesis I was working on. It was how to something about imparting sort of ethical values and things to sentient machines. So you're the right person to talk to.
Wow.
So
well,
it was all about
in theory. I've been a sentient
Well, you're the right
machine.
person to talk at.
Yeah, talk at me. Yeah.
I've never been. Actually, this is ridiculous. I live this close to this part of town, and I don't think I've ever been down this
down here.
street.
Oh, I can't. Yeah. I know someone who lives here, but I'm not going to say who. Yeah.
Is it the Queen?
Well, Posh. No, Posher.
Posher. Wow. Elton John.
I wonder if he does. I don't know but no, I don't know about him. But no, I can't. I've got to get it out. Let me get it out of my system because. Presumably, then, in your childhood, you would have met a lot of those people, and they were just like Dad's mates.
I mean, not those ones in particular, but I've met lots of known people. And you're absolutely right. I was never flustered by any of that kind of thing. And still am not today.
Right.
In fact, the closest I came to being flustered by someone that was Buzz Aldrin. But obviously he's been on the moon.
Yes.
So that's acceptable.
I think that's fair enough.
I got a bit nervous after that one.
Yeah.
And there's probably a few computer game programmers that would fluster me, but that's about it.
Isn't that interesting? Wow, that's funny. But then you can meet like the guys from Led Zeppelin or something like that. It's just like
music-wise, I just don't care. Just to put it in perspective, I am actually hugely, respectful and impressed and have a huge amount of admiration for what my dad's done.
Yeah.
And we're very close. I love him very much. But it's just music stuff just didn't really interest me.
And does it not now? I mean, would you not, if like at home, would you have music playing when you were doing something?
I don't. I have the BBC or Sky News.
Wow.
That's pretty much my background.
Isn't that?
Although when I'm sort of writing properly for film, I do listen to a lot of soundtracks.
Right.
So that is my one exception.
Right.
And I do greatly regret not having learned an instrument. Although I was offered the opportunity when I was a kid to learn just about everything.
Right.
I just dismissed it. I had no interest.
Right. No, and I also have two very nice fans who are both police officers, traffic cops, who watch quite avidly.
Yeah.
And I'm holding the steering wheel with both hands.
We have our seatbelts on.
Yeah, we have our seatbelts on.
We're passing our neighbour, the Queen.
We're passing her Madge. She's there. Have you ever met her?
No. Have you?
No. She drove past my house when I was a kid and I waved.
Really? I thought maybe she was a big Red Dwarf fan.
Wouldn't that be weird if she was?
That would be great. Or even better, scrap heap challenge. That would be.
If she was a big scrappy fan, and then she actually wanted to do Carpool, but her people wouldn't let her. That's the story I'm going with.
Absolutely, no.
She's desperate for me to go and pick her up.
That would be fantastic. Just a huge crowd outside.
Crowd, so there's something happening.
Well, they're feeding the Queen.
Is that what she's having? She's having
they
a
let
breakfast.
her out into the courtyard and
put some food in a trough. That's rude to Her Majesty. Look at all these people in. I think actually
she's like that little German polar bear, you know, the one that everyone thought was so cute, and they'd all gather outside the gate.
I think they knew you were coming through in a white Prius.
Oh no!
And they've all come to see.
Oh really? Well, they should probably take advantage of that. Do some advertising. Maybe the Queen will see the film. Oh dear. Shameless.
No, you've got to be shameless. You have to be, don't you? It is, I do feel shame though at my shamelessness occasionally.
I've been doing promotion for the film now since January, because we came out at Sundance. That was when the film first screened, and it's been pretty much solid since then doing promotion for the film, because we started off with America, and then we did Britain, and now so the film came out in Russia, and we're doing Australia and Spain, and it just goes on and on and on. Hopefully October is the last month, and that will be the end of it.
Right.
At the end of this month.
Wow, that's
I
mean, it's a big chunk of your time.
Well, the thing is normally you would have a cast of characters that would be able to promote the film on your behalf. But it was just Sam Rockwell pretty much, and then Kevin Spacey's voice.
Yes.
So Sam did what he could when he was in America, but he's also shooting other films now.
Right.
And it was pretty much on my shoulders, and if I'm not willing to do the press, then who will?
That is intriguing, isn't it? So, I mean, in your next... Have you now got a desire for your next project to have a huge cast who will all never work again afterwards, so you can guarantee you've got them to send them everywhere?
Financing films right now is really tricky.
I bet.
Everyone is incredibly nervous, not just in the film industry, just in general in the economy, about investing money.
But I mean, weirdly, the stuff I've read about cinema recently is cinema attendance.
Yes, that's
hugely.
The weird thing.
I mean,
cinema attendance is up, and yet studio and independent film investors are nervous.
Right.
So it's kind of this disconnect.
Do you think it's actually a better bet now than it was 10 years ago?
Absolutely.
When everyone thought, because everyone's always thought with every new iteration of any technology, everyone thinks, well, that's the end of cinema.
Yeah.
And then you find out, actually more people are going to cinema now than have ever been in history. So that's the end of that particular industry.
Yeah.
I mean, all those things are so absurd, all of them, that the internet will kill TV. Of course it bloody won't. Or TV will kill radio. No. It is. But I mean, it might be that I wonder sometimes whether we're approaching a point where there's so much.
The diversity.
Stuff, that in a sense, my stumbling across Moon was just such a kind of fluke.
Oh, how did you hear about it?
Well, I must have read about it.
Obviously, there was no advertising about it. So
no, I wasn't going around. These bloody Moon posters really getting on my nerves. Everywhere you look. I can't actually work out how.
Well, it's great that you did.
I did, but also that it was the sort of, I suppose, in a sense, I didn't even really. I'm now making all these connections, but the kind of grottiness of Red Dwarf.
Yeah,
was
absolutely.
The sort of, which was the same in a sense like Alien. It was kind of people who've got this fairly shit job.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
As opposed to I'm flying through space.
It was there's a real blue collar sensibility to Red Dwarf, and I think that's also what we were trying to do in Moon, was sort of blue collar working people in space.
But the backstory, well, that's what really held me. I just thought that is beautiful, the way you revealed that, the beats of the way that was revealed, which I don't want to say now because I want everyone who watches this to go and see the film.
There have been no meteorites.
Micrometeorites, maybe. I don't know. Either way, there might be damage to the exterior shell. I think you better let me go outside and take a look.
There is no damage to the exterior shell.
Well, it's not that I don't believe you, Gertie, but I mean, this thing is springing leaks like an Acme fire hose. You need to let me go outside and fix this problem, Gertie.
I can't let you go outside, Sam.
Gertie, if you don't let me go outside, we can't fix this leak.
I'm not permitted to let you go outside.
We'll keep it between you and me, okay, pal? This thing is springing gas. Let's go. Come on.
Just to check the exterior shell.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, Sam.
Thank you. Gertie.
yeah, that was one of the questions that was tweeted a lot today. Was when it will come out on DVD.
Oh no,
Quite a lot of people
no!
asked.
It looks like November 16th.
Oh,
Which
right,
is
okay.
not too far away. And
Oh, well, I'll make sure this goes out before.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Before then,
yeah.
so.
And we've got some nice little extras that are going to be on it. So there's going to
good.
be some great.
Actually, it is
making of.
interesting because I paid to go to the cinema to watch it, and I now buy the DVD, especially
Oh,
if there's
excellent.
extras. So I'll do that. I'm not asking for any freebies in that corner. I've got my badges.
You got your badges, yeah. Actually, the sad thing is again, because of budget, and we're sort of trying to find ways to claw back the budget and everything, is we've got an auction coming up, which is going to be selling off all of the stuff from the film.
Wow.
So Gertie is going to be for sale, which is tragic.
Quite like Gertie in my office.
He is a big fella though.
I bet he's a big fella. Yeah. Will he talk to me in the same way? Yeah. Will he worry about
Will
me?
Kevin Spacey come and visit you in order to do the voice?
Kevin, I know you're busy, mate. Can you just sit in the corner? No, behind that. I don't want to look at you.
In the box. In the box.
Can you go behind the curtains? If I see you, it won't feel real. Okay, now do the voice.
That'd be great. We should have a Gertie versus Crichton chess game or something.
gosh.
Table tennis game.
Wouldn't that be brilliant? Or just a
That would be great, viral.
Or actually a Gertie and Crichton carpool.
Oh yeah.
Could we get him in?
That would be fantastic.
just take the seat out, put him in there. Oh, how are you going? They're both a bit,
great.
and I think they should both be quite depressed.
That would be great. Oh, I'd love to see that. We did. I did a screening of Moon for NASA
Wow.
in Houston, Texas, and the audience was about 80% NASA researchers
Right.
and people who work at the facility. And there was an actual living astronaut, Tom Jones, in the audience.
Wow.
There is an astronaut called Tom Jones.
Wow.
He's a shuttle pilot.
Wow.
No, it was phenomenal. It was but very intimidating. So the whole idea of having to talk to people who know what you're doing better than you do.
Yes. God, that's scary, isn't it? But would you personally quite like to go into space? I mean, would you, if you got the opportunity?
I'm one of those people who sort of can't help but calculate the odds, and I think I've got so many things I want to do.
Yes.
Especially now that it's taken me such a long time to find my passion in life.
Right.
And now I'm doing it, and I love it.
You don't want it to suddenly stop because in a fiery ball of hell.
Exactly. I think
Yeah.
I'll leave that to those billionaires who can afford
Yeah.
the tickets on
Yeah.
Richard Branson's
Yes.
Virgin Galactic or.
So now, the other thing I wanted to know about helium-3.
Yeah.
Is real.
Yes, absolutely. There was a book I read a while ago. It was a non-fiction book by Robert Zubrin, who's someone who worked with NASA and still works in an advisory capacity, called Entering Space.
Right.
And that's where I read about it. But basically, helium-3 is this isotope that can be used as a fuel for fusion power stations.
Wow.
Theoretically.
Right.
I mean, fusion power is something which obviously we're not quite there yet.
It's not there yet. No.
But it is a very exciting,
Yeah.
possible, prospective energy source for the
Yeah.
future. And the beauty of helium-3 is that it's clean. It's much more clean burning
Right.
than most other fuels.
Right.
So you wouldn't have much radioactive waste afterwards. One of the problems with it is that it's very rare here on Earth.
Right.
Very difficult to accumulate and to make it ready to be used as a fuel.
Right.
Whereas it's in plentiful supply on the moon, which is
weird?
bizarre.
Yeah.
There's a couple of 100 years worth of energy on the moon.
Wow.
And it's on the surface of the moon because the way it gets there is through solar winds.
Right.
Over the course of thousands and thousands of years, as the solar winds hit the lunar regolith, the sort of surface of the moon,
Yeah.
it impregnates the soil with this helium-3.
Wow.
So you could go up there and like in the
and
film,
mine it, yeah.
you set up these big harvesters and you scoop up the first few, the first foot or so of
Right.
lunar regolith, and then you cook it at a high heat.
Yeah.
And the gas, the helium-3 gas that's released, you collect and you compress and you turn it into a liquid form,
Wow.
and then you send that back to Earth.
Wow.
So, and there are different space programs around the world which
We
are
are
looking
looking
into
at
this.
that realistically.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a really cool.
Yeah. So there is some good science behind
Yeah.
elements of the film.
I think it's an essential element of science fiction that people who've made duff science fiction,
Yeah.
of which there's been plenty,
Yeah.
have never quite cottoned onto.
Yeah.
Is that how important that is? Which I think is another reason Red Dwarf was a success. Was
Yeah.
that both guys had a science background, both the
Yeah.
writers,
Yeah.
Rob and Doug. So they kind of didn't just go. So we'll get some squidgely 6 and we'll force it through the combobulator. Mind you, it did sound, often when it came out of my mouth, it sounded a bit like that. Quite funny.
So where are we off to now?
Carnaby Street, just here.
Oh right, great.
I hope.
Okay. Yeah.
We're at the bottom
Carnaby
end.
Street's there.
Oh, bollocks! I've got it wrong. I got it just slightly wrong. Well, I'll drop you off. Oh, there we go.
Oh.
It's all so natural.
Thank you so much.
It's been a real joy to meet you.
Lovely talking to you.
Good.
And
Have a
sure
good day.
I'll Twitter you later.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Okay, mate. Thank you.
All right. Take care.